Okay, let's start. Today we have Beatriz presenting her updated PhD project for feedback and also some preliminary results, right, for discussion. Beatriz is a PhD student from Maringá, Brazil, and she's spending some time with us at Duke to work on her PhD thesis. Beatriz, go ahead when you're ready. Let me share my screen. Yeah, can share. Yeah. So, good morning, everyone. My name is Beatriz. Today I will present the updates of my thesis, titled Knowledge, Attitudes, and Practices of University Students about Sexually Transmitted Infections. So just to contextualize our subject, sexual and reproductive health is essential to adolescent well-being. However, knowledge like sex education is often insufficient or poorly applied. This lack of information may lead this adolescent to risk behaviors like substance use, inconsistent contraceptive use, or STI exposure. The STIs remain a major global public health issue. Over 1 million STIs are acquired daily by young people, and youth account for 50% of new STI cases in the US. And in my country, Brazil reports 10 to 12 million STI cases annually. The link between adolescent and neurodevelopment influences risky decision-making in this context. University students are particular vulnerable group because they are in particularly stage of experimentation, the first experience of autonomy, freedom, and some behaviors. And the university environment should promote STI prevention and health education. But even with the academic access to information, risky sexual practices remain frequent in this population. So, exposure to new social experiences may lead to alcohol and drug use or unprotected sexual activity. And some studies show to us the low perceived vulnerability to STIs in this population, inconsistent condom use, and delays in seeking testing or treatment. And these attitudes and behaviors may increase STI risks among this population. The justification and relevance of our study. First of all, despite access to formal education, many people still lack sufficient knowledge about sexual health, exposing them to greater risks, especially during the transition to university life. Also, understanding sexuality, gender, and health education helps build a knowledge base that addresses diversity, deconstruct taboos, and promote health throughout all life stages. And this study tried to understand of how sex education influences this population behaviors related to STI prevention, contributing to scientific knowledge and guiding public policy and educational intervention. The research question is, what is the relationship between young people's sex education and their knowledge, attitudes, and practices regarding STIs, considering the complexity of life changes, exposure to HRVs, and entry into university? And my thesis is the sexual knowledge gap among adolescents and young people contributes to their exposure to risks, including STIs. In addition, HRVs enhanced by the university environment can result in negative health outcomes for this population. So, The general objective of my project is to analyze the knowledge, attitudes, and practices of university students about STIs, and the specific objective is to investigate the level of knowledge about sexual health and STIs between students, to know the main agents and source of prior sex education of university students, to understand the gaps in prior sex education, and to apprehend the perceptions of university students about attitudes and practices related to sexual health and STIs. We performed a convergent parallel mixed method approach from the perspective of pragmatism, and the data collection occurred in the same time with separate analysis and the subsequent merge of this data, and show the equivalence and importance of quantitative plus qualitative data. This study was conducted at the State University of Maringá in Brazil in 2020. The participants, we included young people enrolled in the undergraduate courses at the main campus. We include students of all gender, first year entering the higher education in 2025, enrolled in face-to-face courses, and aged between 17 and 24 years old. The exclusion criteria, students with a previous degree, completed or not, repeating the first years, or who are pregnant or already have children, because the prenatal, yes, they may receive some sex education. About the sample of our study, we have 207 quantitative answers and 9 interviews. So here's the diagram from Creswell and Clark of our study. The first step, we showed the research questions of quantitative and qualitative nature. The quantitative nature is what is the level of knowledge about STIs among university students, and what are the attitudes and practices related to STIs and sexual health in this population. To qualitative nature is tell me about your knowledge regarding sexual health and STIs, and furthermore, supporting questions. Still in the first step, the data collection, the quantitative data starting in April and will ending in final of October 2025 through Google Forms. These forms contain sociodemographic, behavior, and sexual variables, and also 2 validated tools, KEAP, Knowledge, Attitudes, and Practices Surveys from Health Ministry from Brazil, and STDKQ from 2019. This is online questionnaire and self-administered, and they are available or on link or QR code, and also we send through institutional email. The qualitative data start September and ending in November 2025. The initial recruitment through a questionnaire in the first approach. We use individual interviews combined with the snowball sampling. The contact include prior sex education, sexual initiation, risk behaviors, and knowledge of sexual health and STIs. We did this interview in online private room in Google Meet, and the duration of interview 20 to 40 minutes. About the analysis, the second step, we organize the personal information and questionnaire results in Microsoft Excel. We will use the inferential statistics in R software, and some statistical tests we want to use is personal chi-square test, ANOVA, equation regression, and the knowledge will be classified in insufficiency, intermediate, and sufficiency. About the data analysis from qualitative nature, the interviews will be fully transcribed. We will use the Barding content to guide the interpretation, and also the NVivo to support data organization and analysis. The third step will be merging the two data sets to finally meet the general objective to the thesis. And the last step, we interpreted the merging of these results to discuss the relationship between the two types of data in order to converge and produce a more robust understanding of this theme. About the ethical aspects, this study complies with the ethical standards of resolution in Brazil. The participants will be identified with the letter U, followed by the teaching center abbreviation and a sequential number. And the research was approved by the committee of State University of Maringá. So the timeline activities, we passed from phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Now I am in the phase 4 for analysis and the execution of exchange visitor in here in Duke. And the last phase is construction of scientific manuscripts, submission to journals and scientific dissemination, and final defense of thesis. Here are our questionnaires. Is in Portuguese because our population speaks in Portuguese, but this is an example of pages of our questionnaire. In here are some preliminary results of sociodemographic variables. We have 16 questions of 207 answers. The age mean 19.6 years old. The most common gender of our sample was women with 63.8%, heterosexual with 60.4%, white 73.9%, single 62.3%, religion Catholic, but known to residents, the major living with the parents with 51.7%. The most common teaching center is health, like nurse, medical students, physicians, like with 30%, and the municipality of origin, all of students came Maringá, local, with 47.8%. About the questionnaires, validated questionnaires, the knowledge, we have 35 questions with the themes transmission, growth, HIV and AIDS, understanding, STIs, prevention and vaccination, sex education, information source, and health access. About the attitudes, we have 6 questions: perceived risk, stigma, and social acceptance, health behaviors and preventions, and access to information. And about the practices, we have 35 questions: healthcare use and medical monitoring, testing, follow-up, vaccination and prevention access, sexual and risk behaviors, and substance use like alcohol and drugs. Here are some examples from knowledge, attitudes, and practices questions. 46.9% of our sample disagree with this statement. A person living with HIV who is on treatment and has an undetectable viral load cannot transmit the virus through sexual contact. This showed the lack of information about undetectable equals untransmittable. About the attitudes, for example, how do you assess your risk of becoming infected with any STIs? The major students answer low risk to infect any STIs. And about the practices, think about your last sexual intercourse. Did you use a condom? The results is very closely, but 30.8% say yes to use a condom, and 30.3 say no. About the qualitative data, we have 9 interviews. The age mean 20.8 years old. The gender, the most gender of our sample was men, with 6 men. The sexual orientation, heterosexual, is the most common. And the course, it's nursing with 5 students. The contents blocks that show in the preliminary results and interview is knowledge about STIs and sexual health, sources of information, behaviors and practices, influences of alcohol, drugs, and social contexts, and attitudes and perception about this theme. So the next steps of our project is data cleaning and optimization to ensure data consistency and prepare for statistical analysis. We also draft the analysis plan development to design the inferential analysis plan and conduct statistical analysis using R. The qualitative data processing to perform the analysis using NFIVO. The mixed methods integration to combine quantitative and qualitative findings, and prepare the papers of our results using the GEMINI templates and begin drafting manuscript for publication. Some outcomes we expected with this study is assess the level of knowledge of university students have about sex education, understand how the knowledge influences sexual behavior and the incidence of STIs, correlate these gaps with the prevalence of risks, sexual behaviors, measure the specific knowledge regarding the prevention, transmission, and treatment of STIs, support the development of strategies and intervention in this subject, and contribute to reducing STI incidence and promoting healthier sexual practices among university students. So this is our references. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and feel free to add some questions and comments. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Beatriz. Does anyone have some comments, some questions for Bia?
I don't have much to say. I just wanted to note, great job, Beatriz. Excellent presentation. I really like your slides. It's obvious that you've spent a lot of time preparing them. I'm sure you've made many changes. You know, nice figures and things like that. This is a good, she had a good example that others who are trying to make their presentations more dynamic might follow from. You know, if our presentations are just text, it's very boring. But I liked some of the you know, fluxograms and the things you had in there that illustrated things rather than just having the text. So very nice.
Thank you, Ashley.
Other questions, comments, suggestions for Bia? William? Go ahead.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Beatriz, and for your wonderful presentation. I think sexual and reproductive health is really an important area to study, especially among among these people who are going to the universities. So understanding their knowledge, their attitude with regards to sexual reproductive health is really an important step towards more intervention. And I think your study is laying that foundation. It's trying to create that foundational knowledge to understand our current, in Brazil, to understand the current situation. So I think that is really a good presentation and a nice topic and a nice area, which of course is one of aligns well with the Sustainable Development Goals. So my question to you is more linked into the tool that was used to assess the knowledge, the attitude, and the practice. And you mentioned this in your presentation, how many questions were used to assess the knowledge, how many questions were used to assess the attitude, etc. So and you mentioned that the tool was validated. I just wanted to understand if by any means you would stratify the knowledge level, like at some point say, like my participants had a certain level of knowledge, maybe it was high knowledge, like putting it on a Likert scale and trying to understand those dynamics more. Do you have the plan to do that in the future?
Yeah. We try to put the knowledge, specifically the knowledge, with some criteria like sufficiency, intermediate, and insufficiency, and we use the both validated tools, and they have the questions and the recommend the recommend a statistical analysis to understand this knowledge. I don't know if I answered.
Yeah. So a follow-up for me would be like, for your PhD, would you consider maybe, I don't know, maybe if that's a possibility, like where were the tools validated? Were they validated in Brazil? And if that could be an area maybe to understand, like doing a psychometric study to try and validate. If it was not validated in Brazil, but otherwise I think it's a really interesting project.
Yeah.
And the qualitative part of it now tries to really complement it.
Yes.
I'm just curious also, like, who is your qualitative sample? Like, who do you include for the qualitative?
The sample is the same of students that participate of the first approach.
Okay.
And we try to use the population who participate of the questionnaire answers, but also there is no snowball sampling to aggregate other people that don't answer the first time. So I think this strategy, we got different people of university, and we try to answer the question, this research question, and we chose this both questionnaire because they are free, and other questionnaires are so expensive to be paid. So, and we also use some questionnaires made in Brazil, because in Brazil there are particularly culture, behaviors, and I think the questions is very specific to the group.
Okay. That's very nice. Thank you.
I answer your question?
Yeah, you answered.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Virginia.
Yeah, thank you, Beatrice. I hope you can hear me. I have flu. So I really enjoyed your presentation, but then I see you're covering the knowledge gap. But and then I just wanted to understand within the Brazilian context, do you have a bit of a social-cultural taboo when it comes to disseminating the knowledge, especially for the youngsters who are going to the universities, for them about the sexual reproductive health? Just to understand, because I understand that problems sometimes do exist in African countries. Sometimes people are not really open, and for the youngsters, when they go to college, it's like a whole new experience. So I just want to understand in the Brazilian context, is it also the same case? And another thing, I also noted in the qualitative, you used snowballing technique. And then I was asking myself, did you have where did you use that technique? Did you have a bit of the hard to reach population? Just for clarification, but otherwise I enjoyed your presentation. Thank you.
I don't know if I understand your question.
So Beatriz, I think there's two main questions, if I got it, Virginia, and let us know if we've got this. One is if you can talk a little bit about those social and cultural expectations regarding maybe taboos of getting education and information out, especially to young people, regarding the topic of sexual health, which is sometimes has cultural issues wrapped around it. And then the second question was regarding, I've lost my train of thought, but the second question
It
was regarding
about
snowball sampling.
Yeah, snowballing and sampling.
Yeah, like
why-
why you chose that, if it's because you had have a hard time reaching this population or some other reason for the qualitative sample.
Yeah. Thank you, Ashley.
Try to answer your question, Virginia. Thank you. For the first question, some expectations of our sample. We try to understand, especially the sex education, because we know the lack.
Is it just me who cannot hear Beatrice?
No, it's not. Leticia, the sound has stopped
segregation,
from
but,
Trent. Oh, now
when
it's
we
back.
look for people,
No, I think it's okay now. It paused for a second, the sound, but now I think we hear you. Sorry, can you start the response again, Beatrice?
yes. So about the expectations of our sample, we try to understand some gaps, especially the knowledge. I think the knowledge is the specific variables of our sample. And about the sexual demographic variables, I think the sexual education gap is more particularly between men or community LGBT. And we need to understand these particularly things and how these happens in these communities. And also, I think some questions, it's a little interesting, is so contradictory, because some people answer, no, I don't have risk to infect some STIs, but we don't use condom use. Also, the other contradictory is substance use. We use substance like alcohol and drugs, but this can lead you to don't use a condom, for example. Then they answer, no, we use. So this answers is very contradictory, and we need to understand the answers in the spectrum more, I don't know, can I say, but we need to understand the gaps of the questionnaires and try to answer it through the interviews. And the interviews show some interesting results, and I don't know if I answered the question. About the snowball sampling, I think is a good strategy, but the students don't want to talking about this team. It's a sensible team, but when we start to talking in the interview, they feel free to talking about some situations, some risk, all the stories of other colleagues. So I think we need to debruce in this data to understand these gaps and try to answer the research question. But thank you, Virginia. I don't know if I answer your question, but thank you.
Let's see, I'll just raise one more question out of the chat. Alice said, great work, best wishes. And Baraka had a question, which is, I think, somewhat related to Williams, but a little bit different. He said, fantastic presentation. Can you elaborate on how you will analyze attitudes and practice, specifically something like cutoff points? So a little bit of what William is thinking about these measures themselves.
Yes, yes. This is the phase that we try to understand the analysis, because I enjoy the quantitative data and data analysis, quantitative analysis. So we try to understand the data to finally try to elaborate the plan analysis or things like that. And the point is, we try to merge the data of quantitative data and qualitative data. And I think this is the difficult to merge the both of data. So I don't have a perfect answer for the analysis, because we try to understand the data and how they say, but we try to understand first the data to after that analyze the crossover of knowledge, attitudes, and practices. I think I answer a question, Baraka. Sorry, guys.
Any more?
It's very good.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Bia, for your presentation. It was a great presentation. If anyone has more comments or questions, please reach out to Bia. Let's move for the next section. Okay.
Leticia, can you stop the YouTube?
Oh. Sorry.
No worries.
Um,
It's in the top right, yeah.